later with regards to the principle of using natural materials are these SDGs. Okay, so the first one I think is for good health and well-being, and then industry innovation and infrastructure, sustainable cities and communities, and then responsible consumption and production, and of course climate action, and lastly life on land. Okay, so I just would like to talk a little bit about the bigger picture before I dive into why we have the principle of using natural materials in the first place. So it's because of global warming, it's because of climate change. That's the reason why right now in the 21st century, we are trying to go back to our roots with the advent of architecture when when ancient people just started using natural materials all the time. So in the past, people just used animal hides, which is a completely natural material and wasn't at all that detrimental to the climate yet. So this was around 10,000 years ago. And I mean, I'm sorry, it's around 10,000 years before Christ. So that was around 12,000 years ago. So after that, with the dawn of agriculture, when people started settling down in one place, when we weren't foraging and hunting animals anymore, so we had more permanent structures. So stone came in, and then the use of primitive cement, primitive mortar, mga ganun na materials. But they didn't really have a large impact yet on the environment. So it was very negligible. However, right now, they are really a problem with all the technology that we have, with all the conventional materials that we use. For example, concrete and steel and glass, which are in a way natural materials because they all came from the earth, even though they are composite materials. The issue with them is that they take too long to manufacture. Like there are so many processes that you have to do so that they can be made, and then you release all these greenhouse gases and carbon into the atmosphere if you're gonna make them. So it became a problem. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm just going to estimate around the 80s, when people started to realize that using these conventional materials is going to be detrimental in the long run because it's gonna warm the climate and it's gonna affect us. Okay, so there's a concept called the Anthropocene. I'll just discuss about this a little bit. This is like the geological age that we are living in right now. So anthro just means man. Okay, so this just means that we are the sole driving force of change of the earth at this time, because all of the activities that we are doing right now is affecting the earth. Okay, it's affecting the earth, like and the warming of places near the equator and the heightening of sea levels. So ganun. So we are living right now in the Anthropocene. So anyway, moving on to the principle sustainable practice that I'm going to be talking about. So what exactly is considered as a natural building material? Because if we're going to be talking about science-wise or technicality-wise, everything is natural because everything came from the earth. And even if it came from outer space, it would still be considered as natural. So what we're talking about here, for the sake of argument, let's just say that natural materials can be equated to sustainable materials. Okay, so they don't take too many processes to make. So when you get the raw material, you don't need much energy to manufacture it so that it can be used in construction. So let's just establish that for the sake of argument. All right, so the term natural materials just refers to those substances that are found in nature and which can be either be used directly for some particular building function or require human intervention, e.g. processing to make them usable. Because in this sense, if we take this literally, concrete can be considered as a natural material because concrete is a composite material made up of three other materials like gravel, sand, and cement, which are all present in nature. But they aren't considered as natural by the average person because they look so industrial and they take so many processes to make, and then you release all those greenhouse gases from factories in order to produce them in large quantities. Okay, so this is like a life cycle of any material for that matter. So first, we extract it as a raw material from nature, like timber or stone or yes, like a timber and stone as an example. And then we process them in plants so that releases all the, so we need energy for this. So it releases all the greenhouse gases and carbon into the atmosphere, which is problematic because the earth is warming due to that. And then next, we manufacture the processed material, and then after that we assemble it into the site, and then we now use the material. In this case, this is a bad example. This should have been a building. Okay, so we place it in buildings, and then after the useful life of the building, the material should be able to be recycled for us to consider it as natural or sustainable, so that it wouldn't be detrimental to the ecosystem, and then it will mitigate climate change. So this is just a chart. Yes, this is just a chart that I wanted to show. So I got this from a video from YouTube from Hank Green, the brother of John Green, who wrote The Fault in Our Stars. So he's a science communicator, and he cares about the environment so much that he just wants more and more people to have a sort of idea on how to solve climate change, because on our own, it's very difficult to discern what we're gonna do, because sometimes when we hear about climate change, it connotes something that we have to sacrifice things. We have to sacrifice electricity, and it wants us to ride bicycles and just walk and live in small houses. And sometimes all of that is very hard to give up, especially if you're really used to doing all of those things. So in this chart, it says here that the energy used in buildings accounts for 17.5% of all the all the energy that we use. So the architecture industry really is a key component in fighting climate change, and we should also mitigate our uses of very unsustainable. And he had this very interesting idea about putting a tax on carbon. So essentially, it's like you tax companies if they emit carbon. So so they would have an incentive to use more clean sources of energy. And then not only will they tax the ones that are using non-renewable sources of energy, they will pay people that will use clean energy. So it's a nice concept to ponder about, and it's nice if it is going to be passed as a legislation here in the Philippines, because currently our country is not really doing anything. It doesn't care about climate change legislation wise, because there's all this talk about build, build, build. Well, it's good for the economy and it's good for us because we'll get so many projects, we'll have all the money. But in the long run, it's going to affect severely our environment. So I talked a lot. So what makes a construction material natural or sustainable? These are some key points. So the material should be locally available, so that you wouldn't pay for the transportation costs, and it should be recyclable, and it can even just be recycled content like plastic bottles. They can be considered as sustainable if you use them and not just throw them away in some dump site. Okay, and then they should also be durable, to stand the test of time, and they should be resource friendly while you're manufacturing the product. Okay, so the factories should use clean sources of energy, is what I think this is trying to entail. Okay, so what of a sustainable slash natural building material is the proverbial bamboo. So it is found on so many parts of the planet, and it is also found here in our country. However, if I'm not mistaken, the species here are not strong enough to make larger structures compared to other countries like Vietnam, like what the example I will be showing you later will show. Okay. All right, so this is one example of an immensely natural and sustainable building that uses bamboo. So the frame of this is the water and wind bar by VTN Architects. So this is situated in Vietnam, and the architect is also Vietnamese. So these are some of the SDGs that this structure succeeds in trying to reach. So good health and well-being, because I think I would feel very relaxed and healthy if I came into such a structure, because it's very maliwalas. So it is also trying to reach industry innovation in infrastructure, and sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, with regards to the consumption and production of natural materials, in this case bamboo and thatch, and of course climate action. So this is a typo. The W and W bar is located in an artificial lake. Hence, this lake is artificial. It's man-made, but in a good way. It makes the microclimate here cool, because of the water vapor that always gets blown by the wind into the structure, to make it follow the principle of passive cooling. So as you can see here, it is while they were constructing this for I think a few months, they smoked this by burning rice huts, because it is a traditional way of treating bamboo in Vietnam. But before they place these bamboo strips here, they place them below water for 6 months, so that the aging process of the bamboo will be quickened, because there's a tendency that powder beetles are going to eat the insides of the bamboo. So if the bamboo is a little bit older, so the powder beetles would not want to pierce through their openings. So that's why they like bury them underwater for 6 months. And then when they place them here as a framing, they smoke it. So they place smoking rice huts here, so that it will be treated and it becomes more sturdy. So this is the interior of the wind and water bar, a structure located next to an artificial lake. So I said that earlier. And what's great about this structure is it has an oculus at the center, which is reminiscent of structures halfway across the world, like the Byzantine structures, the structures in Renaissance Italy. So they also have these oculus on their buildings. So here in Vietnam, and with this material, it's also repeated, which is a very interesting mix of ideas. And it's also not it's not only for aesthetic purposes. This is placed here so that hot air will come up, so that it wouldn't get very hot and humid inside. Okay, so they, as shown in this framing, they did not use nail. They tied them with ropes, which I believe are sturdy enough, because the structure is still intact. And then they have also these, they placed dowels also. So later there will be some details. So They also have these like stepping stones in on the artificial lake before you enter the bar. Okay, so this is another view of the interior and how the bamboo frames are connected. And this is the oculus again in closer view. So this this structure is used extensively for musical performances or talks, which is also very nice. All right, and even the chairs are sustainable. So this indeed is a prime example of the use of natural materials. Okay, so this is a close-up picture of how they connected the bamboo frames onto the foundations. So this material that I'm pointing with my cursor right now is steel. So they bundled all these bamboo frames, and then they tied it all around with ropes, which is sturdy enough, I would suppose. Okay, so this is the site plan which I got from Art Daily, and I apologize if it's just hand drawn. Okay, so this is the artificial lake, and then this is the main road. And then you just walk water bar over here, and it even has a bamboo forest on its periphery. And then this is the plan. So it's 15 meters in diameter at the interior, and also they place the comfort rooms away from the main bar over here. And this is a section of the structure. So as you can see here on detail 1, which is this one, the way they connected because bamboo strips have a limit, so they don't extend indefinitely. So the connections here are connected via ropes, and then it is further by placing a thick bamboo bolt over here, as everyone can see. And for this one, the detail 2 over here at the bottom is what I explained earlier. So it is also further strengthened by bamboo bolts over here, and then they tied it with a rope. So this is how the wind. This is a representation of the wind and how it behaves inside the structure. So hot air escapes through the oculus, which is very good. So another project that BTN Architects made is the Sen Village Community Center, which is also another bamboo structure. So it also fits these sustainable development goals, number 3, 9, 11, 12, and 13. So the site area is around 48 hectares, but the gross floor area is around 1,395 square meters and completed in 2015. So it has a 250 people capacity and is located around 20 kilometers away from the center of Ho Chi Minh City and serves as a part of a new residential master plan of 2,200 houses. So this is it's sort of it's very similar to the earlier example because they were designed and made by the same architect. So it's also used for performances. So if we're going to be specific about the species of bamboo, because there are like thousands of species. So if we're going to be specific, in an interview by Blueprint Magazine, VTN said that there are two native bamboo species in Vietnam. So one uses bamboo that can bend to form curves and one that is straight. So this is the one that's straight and this is the one that curves. Okay, so the bamboo that this is supposed to be is the bamboo that is bendable is locally called tam vong, or in Latin, so this is the word. And then the straight one is called luong, and then it has a corresponding one. This is the species name scientifically. So it also has an oculus, so it acts and it behaves just like the prior example. So it's nice. And the connections were also tied up by ropes, and I'm supposing they also use those thick bamboo dowels for the connections over here to make it more sturdy. So this is another view of it I think this is at dusk. And this is another view, another exterior view of it at night. So it is it's made on an artificial lake as well, because it does help with the natural ventilation so that it wouldn't be hot. So this is its site plan. So it's just like the prior example. So here it is. And then this is the floor plan. So I think this is larger than the wind and water bar. So it makes for a very flamboyant pavilion. And then this is the section. So what I know with these foundations that are supposed to be embedded in water from, I just know this from reading. So these foundations should be pierced very deep within the earth, where the bedrock lies, so that the foundation is going to be stronger. So it shouldn't be just around here. But I'm betting that these foundations are somewhat deeper to make the structure more sturdier. So it's not made entirely of bamboo because the slab over here is made up of concrete. So it's not 100% considered as sustainable and natural. So I think that's just that's good enough and negligible because it's like almost impossible to achieve 100% sustainability and naturalness of the material. So the next example of a natural and sustainable material that I am going to be sharing is the cork. So this is its scientific name. So the cork tree is native to the Mediterranean. So that's in Southern Europe and Northern Africa. So what's great about this tree is that you don't really need to kill the tree to use it, because you just get the bark So that's what how cork is harvested. So you wait for the before you harvest this, you need to wait for the tree to become 20 years old. And then once you harvest the tree bark, you need to wait another 9 years so that you could reharvest it. But it's really nice because this is the only tree that that has a useful bark, I would suppose, which makes it a sustainable material. So this is an example of how cork is used in building construction. So this is the cork house by Matthew Barnett Holland, Milne, Oliver Wilton in Eton, England. So these are the sustainable development goals that it is trying to reach. So good health and well-being, and then so on and so forth. Okay. So this cork building is very interesting because it is made up of like 1,200 blocks of expanded cork. So it isn't the normal cork that you get from harvesting the tree right away. So they needed to process these cork blocks. So this is called expanded cork because these are the leftovers of the cork barks that were used in wine bottles. So the leftovers are just recycled for this expanded cork, and then they processed it a little bit, and then they turned it into this. So what they said in the interview of the architect that made this is that this material, this type of expanded cork is it does not decay right away. So you need the right type of bacteria before it decays. So in that regard, it's not that sustainable. But however, these blocks can be dismantled, so you can use them again in another way. If you're not gonna throw them away in the ground to rot, because it will not rot right away, because it's a different kind of cork. So this is a picture of the interior of the cork house. So these walls are 50 centimeters thick, which is very useful in England because it's very cold there. So it keeps the interior warm. It also has an acoustic quality, so it's somewhat absorptive because of its pores, and it also is antimicrobial. So that's what's nice about these cork blocks. Okay, so this is the interior, looking up at the skylight of this cork house. So it's sort of like the Oculus earlier with the water and wind bar and the Sen village pavilion. So these blocks are corbelled here, and to connect these, they use the system of tongue and groove. So they did not use mortar for this, and they didn't nail this. So they just stacked them on top of one another, and then the protruding edge is just stacked up again until you reach the height of this corbelled pyramid. And then this is the interior of its comfort room. So these materials are brass. So they also are somewhat natural because they can be mined. And the architect just he wanted the entire structure to be completely to completely use plant-based materials, but he couldn't find a replacement for a plant-based material for these comfort room lavatories. Okay, so this the ceiling is just a false image. So it's just a play of this, sort of like mimicking this skylight over here at the fireplace side near the living room. Okay, so this is what the blocks look like from the factory where they were made. So they're quite heavy, and I would posit expensive to make, because this house is the first of its kind. So it's not really used. This model is not really used extensively. Albeit cork has been used for thousands of years. This is the only time that the technology and the innovation has allowed us to turn it into this. Okay, so this is a picture this is a screen capture from YouTube, from the video Biodegradable Home Built by Hand with Cork. It's just like Legos. So they didn't use any glue, so that it would be a lot easier to just dismantle them once they've used up their useful lives, the building. Okay, so this is these are pictures while the architects were constructing the cork house. So they also used the scaffoldings that we also use here in the Philippines. If I'm going to extrapolate the dimensions of this from this picture, so I know that this is 50 centimeters, so that's around half a meter, and I would suppose that this is around like 80 centimeters because it's square. It's like the dimensions are like that, so that we can imagine them. So it's not entirely, as shown on this picture, it's not entirely made of cork because the beams are made of timber, so that they can be sturdy enough to carry the compressive load from the pyramid, and then transfer them onto the cork walls, because timber is a little less porous than cork and more sturdy. So these are more pictures while the construction was going on. So they numbered the cork blocks so that they wouldn't be confused as to where they would place the specific cork blocks, because for the cork belt pyramid, they don't have the same dimensions as the walls, so they needed to number them so that they wouldn't make any mistakes. So this is how they made the grooves on the expanded cork. So they used this robotic saw, a robotic circular saw, to make the grooves on the expanded cork. So it's very high-end technology. So this is so they're starting the construction of the Corbel pyramid over here now. So this is how it looks like. And then they placed they were going to place an operable window here. As we can see, there's a lock, so it means that it's operable. And also these pipes are fire sprinklers, so they're made of copper, which is also antimicrobial, because from the research that we did, I think that was last sem. These are copper is the least material that bacteria or COVID-19 viruses can adhere to. So this is also another advantage of this. So this is the top view of the Cork House in England. Okay, so what is shown here in this image is, so this is the raw material, the one that you get from harvesting the oak tree initially. So once people have already used these for wine bottles, so naaman sobra, so it turns into this. Then this now will be expanded in a expanded cork, and turn it into this. So this is the floor. And then this is the fireplace, and then the living room, and this is the bedroom, and here is the kitchen and the bathroom, and there's a small patio at the left side. So this is its elevation as well, and this is its section. So as we can see, the groups on the Corbel pyramid are different from the walls, so they needed to be numbered. And this naman is an exploded axonometric view of the Cork House. So it has these very thin foundations, which is, I think, is just okay in England, because I think they don't have many earthquakes to worry about. But if this was made over here at the Philippines, this would collapse once strong earthquakes happen. So if this would be incorporated here, the design of the foundations would hence be completely different from how it is in England. So this is like a 3D dismantled view of the Cork House, which is like around 75 square meters. Okay, so to bring us closer to home, and so that we can relate, there are numerous researches about coconut husks as an innovative building material, because husks are just they're just thrown away once people have gotten farmers have gotten the what's inside. They're just thrown away. So there was this Swiss scientist that proposed that it would be used as a building board, so for walls and ceilings, para hindi sayang yung material kasi binaburn lang. Okay, so these are its applications, and these are the sustainable development goals that it's likely achieving. So in this particular case, they're using it on the ceiling, which is downright sustainable and natural looking. So they also used bamboo for the ceiling ceiling framing. So there was no information about where this was, but it was said on the article that this was in the Philippines and it was for a social housing project. So in a way, it also alleviates poverty. So just forgot to place it here, but I think it deserves a spot over here because it provides homes for the less fortunate Filipinos. So the research team of the Swiss scientists' primary objective was the development of an environmentally friendly technology for the production of an affordable and natural building material. So in this case, this is a fiber board consisting of crop residue from the coconut production with a tannin-based adhesive. This is the problem with recycled materials, just like the expanded cork earlier, because you need to bind the material, and most of the adhesives are very toxic and not sustainable. Just like I remember Rich Light, so it was very sustainable, but the binding agent contained formaldehyde, so it took away some of its sustainable properties. Although there are some studies that are trying to move away from these very toxic adhesives. Still, this is enough na because this is what the available technology is giving us. So the project results indicate that the cocoa boards offer considerable potential for the local economy. So hence this will also alleviate poverty for the panels are fairly easy to manufacture and install, and the raw material is available in a sufficient quantity. Because we are only second to Indonesia with the largest supply of coconut trees, because they are very commonplace all over the Philippines, no matter where you are. Okay, so what this phrase, what this paragraph is trying to say is just they're trying to find another tannin adhesive material that would be more sustainable, because the current one is produced in South America and Southern Africa, which isn't sustainable in the first place because it's toxic. And then when you import it from another country, you then would use transportation, and if you use transportation, you're going to use energy. So hence it's unsustainable in a way. But this is good enough because we cannot get 100% being sustainable. But this is a good step in the right direction. So here are my references. Thank you, sir, and classmates, for listening. That would be all.
Thank you, Architect Duncan. That was a very interesting report, very comprehensive. So thank you for sharing to us your research and visual presentation. Okay, so